Imagine being able to turn your ADHD from a perceived weakness into a superpower that fuels your business success. Today, I'm going to talk about how to explore how Black women with ADHD can really use their hyperfocus for hyperprofit, you, to be able to harness your unique strengths and take them where we know we always can go, to the top. So I'm Ingershaye Colzie. I'm your executive ADHD leadership coach for professional Black women with ADHD. And I'm also the founder of the ADHD Black Professionals Alliance. That's a nonprofit for all people with, all Black people with ADHD. Um, and it helps Black people to get information and to be together to be able to manage our ADHD. What we need to do a lot of times as Black women is just align our strengths with our ADHD and use it to our best advantage, right? Whether it's at work or at home or for our business. And that's what I do as an ADHD coach for professional Black women. Help us to be able to live the life that we really want to live. Um, and so with that, we could take that into our businesses and really be fantastic business owners. There's lots of challenges that go with being a business owner, especially if you're a Black woman with ADHD. Clearly, we can't go over all of them, but there's also a lot of ways to be great to be a business owner as a Black woman with ADHD. We can't go over all of them either, but here are a few that I think are really going to be helpful um, to be able to help you have it so that this business works for you and not against you. So there is first, I don't know, they call it the strong Black woman trope. I don't really call it that. It's the fact that, in life, a lot of times they expect us to be stronger, or it's perceived that we're stronger physically, sometimes mentally, and in the same breath, it's perceived that we don't know how to do anything, which is always so odd to me. But it is the way a lot of times that we're seen. Um, that is one part of it, how you're seen outside, but how you see yourself on the inside with that, right? That is the part that I really want to address today, where we do a lot of that to ourselves. A lot of times, what we do to ourselves is think that we need to be able to do it all, not want to give it to anyone else, think that we need to be the one to do it, um, think that no one else can do it other than us, feel like it's just too hard to delegate and make sure that it looks good while we're doing all this. Like, I know for myself, um, I always say that for me, it kind of looked like a duck on the water, right? Like a lot of things were happening, not always great. There were ripples, but no one saw the paddling underneath the water that was happening to make this go. And with that, the amount of thoughts that I had in my head about shame or, is this a character flaw or like what's going on was really more important even than sometimes the way that people perceive me as a Black woman. And at this time, I didn't know I had ADHD. And so with that comes a lot of trying really hard, doing too many things, not wanting to give it to anyone else. Also, not leveraging all the systems that are out there because we don't want to reach out. We don't want to be perceived as maybe not being as strong as we like to appear, because also we need to do that and really look good while doing it, right? We come off looking really great, but underneath we're really killing ourselves or like really making it harder for ourselves. And that's where a lot of perfectionism comes. I fall victim to that. Falling victim to that is I wanted to like record this video. And so learning to kind of realize when that's happening and let that go is a skill, because once you can realize that that's what's happening for you and let it go, you're able to do so many more things. Because when you don't realize it, or you don't, if you realize it and you still don't decide to let that go, that's where burnout comes in, right? That's where there's a lot of stress, um, sometimes a lot of mistakes, because also burnout doesn't exist. So it's interesting that that happens, but it is something that we need to look at, and it is something that you can take care of to make your business better and greater, and to have you to be able to then deal with and stand up to when other people are perceiving you maybe as maybe the strong Black woman that can't do anything at the same time. They give you a chance to have some resilience around that. There are also a lot of financial barriers that people don't think about as a Black woman business owner in general, but also with ADHD. So we create the most small businesses there are, yet we have the highest rejection rates for funding. And that's something to really be looked at, because think about it. If we have the highest rejection rates for funding, and a lot of times we're like self-funding this ourselves, how much stress does that put on you? And how does that not allow you to be great? Because all of that stress management and then around your ADHD can really make it so much harder, right? We know if no money comes in, then the engine doesn't go. You're no longer a business. And sometimes how much can you hold out if you don't take care of that? So looking at that is something that is definitely a challenge. Trying to find funding sources that are, I would say, even a little more ADHD friendly, smaller places, places that don't always need all of that information, some grants and things where they don't quite need all that information, because sometimes it's harder for us to hold on to all of that. Um, and being able to start to really manage your ADHD and realize the stress that some of this puts puts on you, so that you can begin to pivot if you need to, because of the fact that maybe your funding source isn't as much, or unique ways to be able to sell things so that you can have the funding that you need. Trying to find some mentors, especially business mentors. It's not so easy, but because there aren't as many of us out there, but there are some out there. So looking for like BNI communities, or different communities, even online, Black women business owners. Um, that is one way I've really found to be able to have some community and have people that have some ideas, or maybe some ways to be able to find funding, or just somewhere to be able to unload some of that stress that can come with that. Um, Also, the Black ADHD tax. Automate your finances to the best of your ability if you can. Have some visual representation to see what's going on, so you make sure you keep track of what's going on with your money, and be willing to pivot if that's what you need to do to keep your money flowing, to keep your business going. Relationship building. A lot of times for us as Black women with ADHD, it's harder for us to build the relationships I was just speaking about. Relationships in other communities, relationships sometimes with people just in your actual physical community. Sometimes it's the way that we're perceived. Also, sometimes with us with ADHD, keeping up with a relationship requires time and effort, right? Out of sight, out of mind sometimes. So creating and keeping those relationships, making sure that, we're following up in general when it comes to a relationship and tending to it, and not having things like RSD jump in. If somebody doesn't quite get back to you in time, or is offended when we don't get back to them in time, um, or sometimes maybe just not understanding what it is they want or need, or maybe we haven't expressed ourselves fully, to be able to make those connections, get through the parts that maybe aren't working, and really lean into the parts of your relationship that are. Because in business, a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so having the time, actually creating and carving out the time, and a system to create relationships, a system around that, and a system to keep up with them is essential. And I really talk a lot about that with my clients, and figure out ways for that to work for them, where they don't feel fake or phony, or they don't feel put upon, or they don't feel like if they've missed something that they can't go back and catch up with someone. And I feel like that is really, it's huge, because if you don't do it, then sometimes you might wonder what happened to the great business you had because you haven't quite tended to the parts that need to be tended to. A lot of times we're doing actions that aren't what they call profit lever actions. We're doing actions that look great or we think look good or things we think we should be doing. But they might not be things that actually add up to keeping your business whole and healthy. And creating and tending to your relationships is one of those things where it's like you might not automatically see your bank account get bigger, but eventually you will because those relationships are what can keep your business going. So to be able to do that and really look at that and figure out a way to do that where it's not so hard for us. Like, I'm not trying to make this any harder than it has to be. So there are ways to be able to do it. Really, they're the ways that you do it with the way that your ADHD brain works. Self-care. I always feel like I should put self-care first. And I know how much people sometimes at this point are like, they're so tired of hearing self-care. Self-care is essential. And self-care isn't selfish. It's essential to our well-being, especially as Black women with ADHD. Sometimes we'll go out and we'll get our hair done or like get our nails done. Not that that's not self-care, it's great, like, but it's the self-care of making sure that you've taken care of like being hungry or not too tired, the relationships that you really want to have outside of business, um, that you're, not too angry, managing your ADHD, but also the self-care of like, what are the things that you really need? What are things that you would like to do that maybe aren't related to business, and how you're managing that around the people with you? Because a lot of times, as women in general, we get stuck with the executive functioning for a whole bunch of other people. Having to maybe keep your house clean. Uh, if you're in a family, it's like, how did I get to me? Or how did I get to be the one that has to remember all the birthdays or schedule all the doctor's appointments? A lot of executive functioning heavy things um, that fall on the shoulders of someone who is trying to manage their own executive functioning. Also, if it's even just you being able to figure out how you can manage your self care in leaving the house, maybe getting out and doing that networking in a way that's not networky, right? That we hate. Uh, Finding ways to be able to soothe your soul um, with, sometimes just keeping your nervous system together or walking out in nature or sometimes just sitting quietly. I know sometimes our brains aren't so quiet, but sometimes we can just kind of sit and let those ideas run and not have them run you. For me, a lot of times that is my self-care, right? So finding out the self-care that works for you and using it, because if you don't, we run out of energy. And energy management is another thing that I talk about a lot. And so making sure that you are working with your energy and without. And when you take care of your self-care, it makes that so much easier to do. Having a supportive community, that I think is essential. So many times we don't look at what that means. Again, Black women, we start so many businesses. A lot of times we are just solopreneurs, right? Some of that goes back to that funding issue. But a lot of times for us, it's like we're just grinding, doing what we do, which I don't always suggest. But when you don't have somebody who kind of understands what you're doing as a business owner, and somebody doesn't understand how you have to do it when you have ADHD, can leave you lonely. It can leave you feeling like, is it just me? And I'm doing this because I want to, but why am I doing this? So finding a community that really works for you. I know that community really is the thing that can really solve for so many things that happen with our ADHD. So when you can find some people that you can relate to, you can have some peer accountability. You can do some body doubling, which will that's when you work alongside someone to help you get some things done that you might not have gotten done. Um, that's another way of having the mentoring that we talked about. Um, and sometimes just having like collaborative problem solving, right? having some other people that understand how your brain works, or just understand it, you let your brain run and be there with you to be able to use that to your advantage. That's like, it is a gift. And so I do a lot of things with community. Community, some people say it's like my middle name. Um, and so I am, I'm looking at like, I'm starting a course for business owners, a Black woman with ADHD business owners. And I just want to be sure that everybody knows that that's what's happening, and to be able to have it work for you, right? So what I'm doing is having a wait list of people, because a lot of people have reached out about it, and just trying to manage how to be able to let people in so that it really works for people. Um, so if you're interested in being in a community and having a place to be able to discuss these and many other things that happen for Black women business owners with ADHD, reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Ingershaye at Ingershaye.com, Ingershaye on LinkedIn. Just let me know course and I will get back to you with the particulars. But it's just really important to me to have a place where we feel seen and heard, where we can get our things done, right? Where we can take care of ourselves. In these days and times, if we don't take care of ourselves, no one else will. And so to have a place where, collective economics is the thing, right? To be able to make sure that we are taking care of each other and holding each other down during these different times. So if you're interested, please let me know. And there's so many other things I want to say, but I need to keep this video brief. Um, and that's the reason why we're having the course, so that we can work through a lot of these things. So looking at some of the things that I mentioned, I like to look at them through a coaching lens of, what would I do? What are ways that I can find community? What are ways that I can manage my finances better, or get some funding? What are some ways that I can be a mentor to someone else? What are some ways that I can do self-care maybe in a different way? But take your time as a Black woman with ADHD and know that you can run your business and have it work really for you, and that it's enjoyable and fun and profitable. Um, and that we can have anything that we want if we manage our ADHD and leverage it to our best ability, so that we run circles around them out here. All right. As always, you can live the life you really want with ADHD. So please do reach out to me. I'm Ingershaye, and thanks for listening. Take care.